Hello, I'm Stuart Hitchcock, a student in the Management of Modeling and Simulation Systems at the Naval Postgraduate School. Today I will be presenting some general information on a research proposal with a focus on some of the current simulation technology that is being used to improve the physical health of patients who have suffered a traumatic brain injury, TBI. As part of this proposal, I will introduce you to some technologies that may or may not hold promise towards introducing a culture of sustainable physical exercise into the lives of those who have suffered a TBI. I will also discuss how simulation technology might be used as a flexible and cost-effective, sustainable means of maintaining a healthy lifestyle that includes physical exercise. In addition to this, one of the long-term goals of this project is to further add to the body of scientific knowledge on the relationship between sustained physical exercise and how it may prevent, mitigate, or even reverse the development of neurodegenerative brain disease in TBI patients who, as a population, are at greater risk of developing neurodegenerative brain disease as a result of their injury. Today's Tech Talk presentation is titled Simulation Technology to Support Exercise Engagement in Patients with Traumatic Brain Injuries to Mitigate Chronic Neurodegenerative Brain Disease. First, I'll start with some background on TBI, chronic neurodegeneration, benefits of exercise, and some of the goals of this proposal. Traumatic brain injury is recognized as a major health issue affecting some current and former members of the United States military. TBI is commonly associated with exposure to high-energy kinetic forces that interact with the skull and consequently injure the brain. This type of injury is consistent in veterans who were exposed to explosive blasts and repetitive concussions. Neurodegeneration is the progressive loss of structure or function of the neurons, including death of the neurons in the brain. The greatest risk factor for neurodegenerative disease is aging. However, the medical literature suggests that head trauma is also implicated, even if it's mild, as a risk factor of developing neurodegeneration. While it seems intuitive, the health benefits of aerobic exercise are often ignored. Exercise can help protect against heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, non-insulin dependent diabetes, and so on, and it can also help you better manage stress. And it may have chemicals that release in your brain to protect against neurodegenerative brain disease, but this is a little understood and more research is needed. The goal of this proposal is to use a convenient, cost-effective simulation platform to improve the quality of life for individuals who have suffered a TBI through the use of sustained exercise across the lifespan. The remainder of this presentation will discuss the benefits and disadvantages of current and prospective simulation technologies that can be used for cognitive rehabilitation and TBI treatment. The National Intrepid Center of Excellence, known as NICO, is a Department of Defense organization working to advance the clinical care, diagnosis, research, and education of military service members with traumatic brain injuries and other psychological health conditions. In 2010, when it was opened, I was there, and this facility served as the inspiration for this project. The NICO Center is focused on treating the most difficult cases of TBI using a multidisciplinary approach that includes two simulation-based platforms, the Firearms Training Simulator, known as FATS, and the Computer-Assisted Rehabilitation Environment, known as CAREN. The FATS simulator is an interactive system that uses computer software and realistic firearms training that is used to develop confidence, coordination, and lethality in individuals who have suffered a TBI or experienced other mental medical health conditions. The FATS trainer has proven to be effective in helping with that. However, it requires a dedicated room, staff, and the systems itself initially cost upwards of $150,000 to purchase. While it is effective for its intended purposes, its benefit to the overall health and physical fitness of the patient is minimal. The CAREN system is a versatile, multisensory system for clinical analysis, rehabilitation, evaluation, and registration of the participant's balance and ability to avoid objects. It uses virtual reality environments which enable researchers to assess the subject's behavior and includes sensory inputs such as visual, auditory, vestibular, and tactile systems. The Karen system benefits the TBI patient by providing a cognitive feedback system in real time, making it easier for the patients to adjust their motions with their sensations. Since it does it automatically, the patients can receive feedback almost instantaneously on their progress through the virtual reality system, and they have more time to process their changes instead of trying to remember complicated instructions on what they did and what they need to do after the fact. Much like the FAT simulator, there's a required amount of infrastructure to support this system that also includes an operator as well as professionals to interpret the data as a result of the sessions. Reported costs for the systems for startup range anywhere from $250,000 to over $1.5 million. And while it's somewhat effective for physical exercise, its purpose is more geared towards movement and intentional goals as far as occupational therapy and physical therapy, and not so much for building aerobic capacity through physical exercise. And while there are some simulation technologies in use today for TBI patients, next we'll be discussing some of the current and alternative technologies used to encourage and facilitate participation in exercise, while some are already being used by TBI patients as part of their rehab. There's a paucity of research on how these systems actually are effective and sustained when used as exercise facilitators, since once the patients are discharged from the structured, monitored, or residential treatment programs, little tracking is involved on these systems. While absent some of the advanced technologic features of simulation, following a practical example of a live human remains a feasible method of simulating. By directly demonstrating an exercise, the TBI patient can mirror the movements and the appropriate level of effort necessary to complete the action by simply watching somebody else do it. The benefit of these can be substantial, however, there are some limitations as well. The use of self-directed exercise, while inexpensive, if based on a one-time purchase of a video, DVD, or a book, however, it does not work for the undisciplined or for those who have injuries related to memory problems. Motivation and results can quickly deteriorate as competing interests intrude on the individual's schedule and success with the program. Having a workout partner is an ideal and cost-effective method of which to ensure you're committed to participating in the program, support of your goals, and ensuring safety during all exercise operations. However, compliance will only be as good as the will of your partner and may lead to some of the same problems of competing interests for the time of the individual as well as the partner's time. Having a personal trainer is a good option as well. The benefits of a professional cannot compare with casual self-education or the assistance of a family or friend. However, the same problems of motivation, time coordination, and additional per-session costs can be barriers to sustainability. Shifting gears now towards some of the more long-standing technological-based facilitators of exercise, we have the treadmill, rowers, upright and reclining exercycles, and the stair climber machines as options for simulation of the corresponding real activities. Each of these have varying degrees of monitoring and reporting, which are important and which have not been mentioned up to this point, but can serve as motivation towards sustainment of the exercise program. While variations of each of these pieces of equipment could be used at a time and location of convenience, either in a gym or a garage, they have a substantial cost related to them for initial purchase, and in some cases where they are used as a sole mechanism of exercise, they can become somewhat routine or stale over time, thus resulting in limited use. Systems that can provide motivation, are convenient, and also render feedback on performance almost instantaneously can be found on most of the major video gaming systems. Each system listed here has its benefits to include customizability with regards to the level of effort and type of exercise performed. Levels of effectiveness of all the activities performed, such as tennis, downhill skiing, boxing, or dancing, can be gauged by a calculated score based on certain measures taken through the system's markerless motion tracking technology. However, specific physiologic parameters must be taken separately into account utilizing wearable activity and physiologic monitors. There are several brands of activity and physiologic monitoring systems available that can track and direct the needed level of activity to match a recommended threshold or goal of aerobic activity performed. Most models provide reports on the physiologic response of the user in terms of heart rate, distance traveled, sleep stages, and calculate calorie burn, among other many features. These are very effective in monitoring, tracking, and goal setting, but fall short in offering genuine motivation, directing specific exercise movements, or sustainability. The nearest solution to this problem of finding a cost-effective, flexible, and highly adaptable platform are the fitness applications available for mobile devices. The exponential growth in both the capabilities of these portable devices and the number of possible standalone applications for health, fitness, and exercise make them an acceptable option to motivate the individual, as well as capturing and analyzing the data that results from their exercise experience. However, there are between 80 and 100,000 different health and fitness applications being released each year, which results in too many application choices that may lead to frustration and reluctance. Ultimately, the user will always have the ability to either not start the application, turn it off, or even delete it entirely. Thus far, the technology has resulted in both large-scale simulations that cost upwards of hundreds of thousands of dollars, tracking devices that cost under $100, to application software that is either free or costs very little. And while each has an advantage and a disadvantage towards the proposed goal of increasing the amount and quality of exercise for TBI patients, none of these alone are perfect to meet that end. Going forward, innovative, fitness-oriented businesses that are moving towards solving most of the issues discussed here are one such programs as Aptiv. Aptiv, while it is not alone, it incorporates a bulk of the positives with very few of the negatives discussed here, in terms of exercises offered, from Tai Chi to yoga to kickboxing, to a schedule that is appropriate for the user, 24 hours a day, to a platform that is convenient to the user at a reasonable cost, with the potential to live, have interactive conversations, and to monitor in real time, one by instructors from around the world. They'll know in real time if the participant is backing off their pace during a spin class or a run, or if they need an alternative movement selection because they're unable to achieve what they're doing in either Tai Chi or yoga. The stress is released, and the participant will participate more frequently, modeling the appropriate behavior, exhibiting the appropriate motivation, and performing the exercise. However, a drawback to this is the bandwidth required and other considerations that are relative to any of these, the time and motivation to start the program. In conclusion, all these systems show great promise for continued development and refinement within their own niche markets. With continued development and technological advances, they could be very well integrated and further enhanced by things such as cloud-based interconnectivity and 3D holographic technology. Having this will allow facilitated exercise through simulation to occur anywhere, anytime, for a reasonable cost, and may very well help counter some of the disadvantages discussed here, with the main disadvantage being exhibited by the individual's willingness to participate in some form of exercise for the rest of their lives.